Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Tiffany Craig in the newsroom, and I am sandwiched in between, you're laughing, I am sandwiched in between two tax experts. The beauty is that we're taking questions, all kinds of questions, and you're going to get some answers today. This is Cristina Cave, and this is Jose Perez, and they're with Baker Ripley, which, if you're not familiar with that name, it used to be called Neighborhood Centers, and they've helped thousands and thousands of people in and around Houston with tax questions, with tax preparation, you name it. So we're going to start with Cristina.
Yes.
What are some of the big concerns and some of the big things that are going on this year that everybody needs to know about, or they might have already experienced?
Yeah. So I think that the big thing this year is the tax refund delay. And we just want people to know that that only impacts those who claim earned income tax credit. So it's those who earn less, and also claim the additional child tax credit, only those. And people should expect to get their tax refund, let's say like from 7 to 10 days later than usual.
Yeah.
And what we want people to know is just to stay away from the refund advance loans. Because you may have heard that they can offer you up to $1,000 to get your taxes done.
Which,
with
of
them.
course, sounds appealing.
Of course, especially if you know that your refund is going to be delayed, right?
Yeah.
But just watch out, because they basically work like payday loans. So you will end up paying up to 300% of interest.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't feel it because it's tied with your refund and you haven't got it yet, right?
Yeah.
So that they take a big chunk from your refund. But a few months later, it means that you won't be able to pay your rent, utilities, or something else. And then there are certain products out there that don't have interests. But you will only be able to apply until you file your tax return, and they have to tell if you're approved. And that doesn't happen until 24 hours later that you actually filed.
Yeah.
And I've heard a lot of people that, well, they were not approved, but still they had to pay up to $300 for a very simple tax return that we can prepare for free at any of our 12 locations.
And we all like free.
Yes.
So Baker Ripley's in the house here. You are an accountant, I do know that. So we're going to scoot over here for a second, because guess what? Once again, what we're offering here today is free advice. And so I'm hanging on to the iPad because I know a lot of you at home, you're just joining us. You're like, you know what? I've been meaning to ask that. I want to know about something that's going on. And this is your opportunity to get those questions answered. And you don't even have to leave wherever you are. You're on your phone, you're on your iPad, you're on your computer. Ask away, because we're going to be here for the next 10, 15 minutes answering those questions. I do want to ask you a couple things that we were talking about just before we started here. What are some of the big mistakes that people make when they go in to get tax help?
Some of the big mistakes are not bringing in your Social Security card. When you go in to file your tax return, it is a federal document, and we have to prove that you are who you say you are. So bring your Social Security card with you, bring your ID. If you're married, bring your spouse with you, because we will need to verify them as well.
I don't know why I'm so entertained by that. Don't forget your husband. Don't forget him. Okay, sorry.
Sure, they'll need to sign off on the return. And also, all of the income documents that you receive in the year, make sure you bring in all of your W-2s. If you know you had a job and you didn't receive that W-2, then either call that employer, make sure that they send it to you, or bring in the last paycheck stub. But you got to make sure that you did try to get that W-2. You will have to note that on the return.
Okay, so I have a question from Diane Counts. Thanks for tuning in, Diane. Do you have to click yes or no if you have health insurance? I hear you don't have to answer that question.
So yes, you do. The law still states that you have to have health insurance for the entire year. And there is a penalty assessed if you did not have health insurance, unless you qualify for a certain exemption. All of the preparers at our tax centers are very familiar with those exceptions, and they know to ask the right questions to make sure that if you didn't have health insurance, that we're making sure you don't get that penalty assessed.
Okay. Back over to you, Cristina, because I know this is one that you can answer for us. How many locations does Baker Ripley have for tax prep, and where are they around town?
Yeah, so we have 12 locations all over the greater Houston area, from Bay Area, Fort Bend, East Alding, and in between. So in order for you to learn which one is near to you, just go to our website. It's freetaxcenters.org, or you can call 211, that is the United Way helpline. tell them that you don't want to pay to get your taxes done, and they'll direct you to their nearest tax center. And very important, we help families and individuals that earn up to $58,000. So there's a lot of people out there that we can help.
Up to 58,000?
Yes, exactly.
You said freetaxcenters.org.
Yes.
Is that right?
That is right.
Okay. So I knew it. The questions are coming. You guys ready? They're just going to
Yes.
come
Ready.
left, right, left, right. Deborah Hernandez. I'm applying for ITIN. Okay. See, this is why the experts are here. I'm applying for ITIN number because my husband will put like dependents, so they tell us they will take 6 weeks to get our refund. But our friend did the TX with the send place, but he hardly got it. Does that make sense? I'm sorry. I think
the
there's
last
a couple
part,
of misspelled
well,
parts in
let me
there.
just talk about the ITIN number. For those who don't know, an ITIN number is a number that the IRS issues for those that don't have a Social Security number. It's a number that allows you to file your tax return. And yes, you can request an ITIN number for yourself, your spouse, or your dependents. One thing new to this year is that in our tax centers, we can only apply for an ITIN number for anybody who is present in the United States. Used to be that we could apply for dependents that were back in Mexico or in Canada. This year it's only here in the U.S. That does have to be mailed off to the IRS. It's an application that goes along with the tax return. And yes, the IRS does take 6 to 8 weeks to process that application. So it does take a little while. So just be patient when you're applying for an ITIN number.
Got it. Deborah, I'm sorry I'm ignorant in that department, but obviously we have the experts here. So hopefully you got that answer. You were listening in for that. Byron asks, can you claim a dependent for 6 months of the year?
Well, there's a lot of different rules when it comes to dependents. If it is a child of yours, they don't necessarily have to live with you all year. There are exceptions. Let's say if they're living away in college, they don't have to necessarily live with you. But most of the rules say that they had to have lived with you for more than half of the year, and you had to have provided more than half of their support. It's really, really tricky. A lot of the answers are really, it depends on the situation, but all of our preparers are really qualified. They'll ask the right questions and make sure that we're claiming the right dependents for you. So
Baker Ripley, formerly Neighborhood Centers,
Yes.
that's who we have here taking your tax questions. And Quentin wants to know, I'm filing with a preparer in San Antonio. Is there any way I can check the validity of the preparer?
Yes, the IRS actually has a list online that tells if the preparer has the qualifications. And actually, I want to tell them, they also have free tax preparation in San Antonio. So for anyone that is in Texas, they can call 211 and they will direct them to free tax preparation services like ours. We know that San Antonio actually has a very big program like ours. So check that one before. Call 211 and they'll direct you.
I would just like to add, if you are going to pay preparer, there's a few things you want to look out for. Make sure that the preparer is signing the return on the second page. There's a lot of times where they won't do it. And then also that they're giving you a copy of your tax return. There's a lot of preparers that, well, not a lot. There are fraudulent preparers out there that will file a false return and then keep that money for themselves. So make sure that you're getting a copy and that the preparer's information is on the tax return. Also, if you are going with the paid preparer, see if they're going to be around the whole year and they're not just one of those mom and pop shops that's open 3 months out of the year and then you never hear from them again if you need help.
So for those of us who do it on our own, I actually have managed to do that so far. What would be a reason for me to begin going to a tax preparer? What is it that, obviously things happen, different, you have life changes, that kind of thing. What sort of things would prompt you to go to a tax preparer instead of doing it yourself?
So big life changes. If you buy a house, then you're going to start paying mortgage interest and property taxes, so you'll qualify for itemized deductions, which means less taxes you pay, a bigger refund. But along with those, there are other deductions that you may qualify for. There's a general sales tax deduction, possibly charitable contributions, and if you don't know, you might be leaving those off of the return and not getting your full refund. Another thing is if you get a job where they're paying you cash or as an independent contractor and they're not taking taxes out of your paychecks, on your return you will have to pay self-employment tax, and it gets a little complicated because there's a lot of deductions and business expenses that you might qualify for that you don't know about. So in those cases, I would go see someone and ask for advice.
Cheryl Richards says, my college-age son didn't work last year. Does he have to file taxes? He worked all the other years.
So no, if you actually earn under $4,000, you do not have to file a tax return. Obviously, if you didn't make any income, there is no filing requirement.
So Felton says, I'm having a problem with an amendment. That's all he said. Does that...
Having a problem with an amendment.
Can you elaborate a little? Like, we want to help you, Felton, but we just need to know a little bit more information.
Well, I was just going to say an amendment is whenever you file your return incorrectly, you can file an amendment to correct that return. If you need help, come to one of our tax centers. We do amendments all year round, too.
So is the new presidential administration affecting the returns?
Not for this year, because you're claiming whatever you did on 2016. So the administration didn't start until this year. So they haven't changed any rules.
Sure.
And one thing that I want to state is that sometimes most of the rules are pushed by Congress. The IRS has nothing to do, you know?
Right.
So right now there are no changes. You are claiming or paying for 2016. So
I guess, when you think about it, you're like, well, I'm sitting down now. It's 2017.
Exactly.
But you're doing 2016.
Yes.
Chris says, would be claiming a new baby this year because my refund delayed for more than 30 days. There might be a couple of words missing there, but does that make sense to...
Would it be the additional child tax
Well,
credit?
I think maybe that's what we're talking about here.
Cristina spoke to this earlier that there was a delay in refunds for anybody claiming the additional child tax credit. So if you had a baby in 2016 and you did get additional child tax credit, those refunds were delayed until after February 15th. But now, since we're past that time, the IRS isn't delaying any more refunds.
How do I get a W-2 from a former employer if they didn't mail it out?
So the first thing you want to do is contact the employer. Request that they send you another form. And if you're not successful in getting that copy, you can present a paycheck stub when you go file your taxes. They'll fill out a substitute W-2 form, but you do have to explain that you made an effort to get the W-2 and were unsuccessful.
What options do I have if I can't pay full amount by tax day? Which, by the way, is April 18th this year. But this person says can't pay the full amount.
Right. So if you can't pay the full amount by April 18th, first and foremost, file your tax return. There are 2 penalties that the IRS will assess. The first one is a failure to pay, and the other one is a failure to file. Now, if you don't file your return, the failure to file your tax return is a lot more than the failure to pay. It can be up to 25%.
Say that one more time. Just say that one more time.
So there's a failure to file and a failure to pay. If you don't file your tax return, a lot of people think, oh, I don't have the money to pay, so I'm not going to file the return. Well, if you don't file your return, you could be hit with up to 25% of what you owe for not filing. So file your return, and then call the IRS and let them know that you can't pay. There are some extensions that they'll give you on payment. If you can pay within 120 days, they'll do it, and you're not charged anything. But you do have to call them and request that. Now, if it's going to take longer than 120 days, then they'll put you on a payment plan, but you do have to apply for that. There's a small fee, and then based on your income, they'll let you know how much you can make for monthly payments.
I know you just pulled up, I think, something maybe irs.gov. Let me ask you a question before you launch into that. How long does it take this year to get the refund? It's been 4 weeks already since we did it, and is there a number to call for that?
Yes, so people can go to the IRS website and they can check to where is my refund, as easy as that. And they will ask them some questions to make sure that they are the right person, and then they will guide them what's the status of their refund. My suggestion is don't contact the person that actually helped you with your tax return, because right now it's in the hands of the IRS. So go to their website and you will find out.
Okay.
One thing to note is if you e-filed and direct deposit, it could take 7 to 21 days to get your refund. If you e-filed it and you get a paper check, it could take up to 3 to 6 weeks to get that. If you mailed the return and you're getting a paper check, it could take more than 6 weeks to get that refund. But if you think that there's a problem and you've gone to the IRS, where's my refund? You can also call the IRS. It's 1-800-829-1040. I have that number memorized.
Say it again. Say it again.
1-800-829-1040. Sometimes they don't answer right away. I suggest calling them very early in the morning. It's the best time to get them. And maybe somebody can help answer why you haven't gotten your refund yet.
Do we know what time they open? Like 7 or
7
something?
a.m.
Yes.
7 a.m.
Central?
Eastern.
That's 6 a.m., right?
Yeah.
So, like,
Go
might be worth
early.
getting up early that day just to make that call. So Sylvia wants to know, can I deduct my easy tag tolls? I use my car for business.
So yes, if you use your car for business, then tolls are deductible. I'll leave it at that. There's a couple of other rules, but come to one of our tax centers. We can help you out with that.
All right, bear with me here. Connie's is a little bit longer. She says, my parents passed away years ago, but there is no will and the estate is in probate. However, I've been paying the taxes on the house. Can I claim those tax payments even though the house is not yet in my name?
Technically, the IRS says that you can only claim taxes paid if it's under your name. So technically, no.
Okay. Steve wants to know, how long can I get to extend paying?
There is no extension to pay. You can apply for a payment plan, but if you file an extension, that only extends the time that you have to file your return. It gives you 6 months to file it, but there is no extension to pay. That money is due April 18th. If you don't pay by then and you don't call them, they'll start charging you a penalty and interest starting April 18th.
Okay. A DACA person needs to pay a penalty for no health insurance last year? Question mark. Because my niece paid around $700 for no health insurance. I know this is a big one. You get this a lot.
So for those that are presenting their taxes with an ITIN number that Jose referred earlier, and those who are DACA beneficiaries, they don't have to have health coverage because they don't qualify for the Affordable Care Act or the Obamacare. So you shouldn't pay the penalty. So what we suggest is to go and get that amended so that money comes back to you. And this is very important because sometimes tax preparers may not have the knowledge, and this is a lot of money. So just go back and get that amended. And if you fall under our category, like you didn't earn more than $58,000, we can help you.
How do you kind of do your own sort of vetting when it comes to who you're going to use? Because you, again, if not a fly-by-night place, but if you're looking for a place and kind of the price is right, the location is right, and you think, I'm sure they can do it, right? They're more experienced than I am. Like, what are some maybe red flags that this isn't the place you should go to?
You can always check the IRS website. They do have a list of preparers that they recommend. Other than that, like I said, make sure that they're open year-round, that you can access them after the tax season. Make sure that they're signing the return, and make sure that they have a good reputation. Ask people that you know who they use, or look somebody up online. Try to get reviews for them as well.
Yeah, and then something is like, it doesn't mean that they're good because they're getting you a big refund. Because if you're getting a big refund, by the end of the day, you may end up with a huge problem. So just watch out on that.
Okay. Tell people again where they can get information, Baker Ripley information about getting the tax help and the tax prep for free, because that can happen.
Yes. So anyone earning up to $58,000, please go to our website. It's freetaxcenters.org, or call 211, which is United Way helpline, and they will direct you to our nearest tax centers. We have 12 all over the city.
So Ruby wants to know, I didn't work last year, but I received a 1098 for my mortgage taxes. Do I need to file a return for this?
No. If you do not have any income, there is not a filing requirement. That form just lets you know how much you paid in mortgage interest. It's a deduction, but if you don't have any income, there's nothing to deduct.
Teresa says, how can I tell if I'm exempted from the fine of not having insurance all year?
There's a few that I can name. So if you had a short coverage gap, like if you didn't have insurance for 2 months, then there's an exception. If you made less than the filing threshold, which for a single person is right around $10,000, if you made less than that, you won't have to file, or you don't have to pay the penalty. If, for like people who have an ITIN number or who are here undocumented, they don't have to pay that penalty. There's a list of other ones. Ask your tax preparer, and they should be able to help you with that.
So if you're watching and seeing some of the questions, Neighborhood Centers, Baker Ripley, they are putting information on the page where we're actually broadcasting this, so you can see websites, how much you can earn to be able to get the free help, that kind of thing. Jose Perez and Cristina Cave are both here. We've got a few more minutes to answer your questions, and we've almost made it through all of the questions that have been posted on here. And I'm sure more we're going to come after that. But here's one. I worked in a different state last year as a consultant and paid that state's taxes. Do I get the $2,900 I paid back since there's no state tax in Texas?
Well, if you worked in another state, then you will have to file a state return for that particular state. You might qualify for a refund with that state, but it just all depends. All state returns are different. As far as getting the state taxes from another state, with Texas, it doesn't work that way. The refund would actually have to come from that state where you worked.
Okay. And one more. Mary says, we were told we had to file taxes until we both turned 65 and not working anymore. But I'm thinking of going back to work part-time because the cost of living keeps going up. I think that's more of kind of a statement than anything else. Okay.
But maybe we should enlighten our senior citizens if they should file.
So typically, if you're retired, you'll get Social Security benefits. Those are generally not taxable. However, if somebody does go back to work and they do get a part-time job, and so they have income on top of their Social Security benefits, then part of those Social Security benefits could then become taxable, in which case they would have to file a tax return. In this day and age, with as much identity theft as there is, oftentimes people will go after seniors and will steal their identity and file false returns in their name and get that refund. And you won't know unless you actually file a return and e-file it, and then you'll get a notification if somebody else has filed in their name. So what I always suggest is if you are senior and you're just getting benefits, go ahead and e-file the return, and that way you'll be able to tell if the return was submitted and accepted by the IRS. If it comes back that somebody's filed in your name, then contact the IRS and let them know you're a victim of identity theft.
Okay, so Steve, I know you're asking. We will get to your question. I'm kind of piecing together what you sent to us. So Steve says he worked for a company that merged December 12th and got 3 checks from the merged company. So his question is, Company A became Company AB. Should I get a separate W-2? We might have stumped him.
I think you did. I think so. You should get a W-2 from each company, but I'm not entirely sure. You did stump me on that.
I can't believe you stumped them. Like, y'all are good. You're really good.
Good question.
Okay, so Steve, I'm sorry. And he said, please answer. Like, he was very persistent. So I'm sorry that we couldn't answer that question, but I bet somebody at Baker Ripley probably can.
Yes.
And there are tax centers all over town, and there's a website you can go to. And what we've done is, I did a little homework before we came on here to do this, and I've compiled a bunch of stuff. So you can also go to our website, which is khou.com, and there are plenty of links and all kinds of information there. So it's really easy to get to. You don't have to remember a whole lot. You can go on there, and we can link you to them, and you can get some of your other questions answered, because I know some of you are probably joining us a little bit late, and you're probably trying to come up with your questions, but you probably won't have an opportunity this go round. But anyway, thank you, Jose.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Cristina.
Thank you.
I would suspect that you're both going to be very busy for the next few weeks.
Yes.
And thanks to all of you for joining us.